thank you for joining us for another episode of Farewell Evangelion. My name is Keith, and I'm going through the series for my last time, and I'm joined by Peter,
Hey!
who's going through it for his first. We're going through the full Neon Genesis series, movies, and television show. Today we watched Angel Infiltration, episode 13, and it was released in December 27th, 1995. An angel infiltrates Nerve, and its systems in the Magi are at risk of being infected. Ritsuko races to stop the takeover.
Alright, right off the bat, I got a couple things pretty fucking right with my prediction for this episode. So, I predicted that this angel would be much smaller than any of the other angels. I predicted human scale, but it was kind of...
Nanomachine.
Nanomachine, so smaller than I predicted, but still I was pointing in the right direction. I predicted that it would just kind of walk its way into Nerve, which is pretty much exactly what fucking happened. There was no big assault on Nerve. It just was in there all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I predicted that because it was so small, they wouldn't fight it with Ava's. Someone would just fight it with their bare hands. Now, I predicted Rei, and as happens literally anytime I predict Rei does something, it ends up being Ritsuko doing the thing instead. Well, not Ritsuko. Usually it ends up being Asuka doing the thing. But in this case, it was Ritsuko doing it.
To give you some credit, you did correctly predict Rei when they were fighting Ramiel being the shield.
That's true. I did manage to call that one, which fucking God only knows how I got that one right.
But instead, it was pretty much Ritsuko that beat it with her bare hands and her brain.
To be fair,
and her mother's brain.
Yeah, this was one of those episodes that was largely dedicated to Ritsuko, which it wasn't something I was thinking we needed beforehand, but now that I think about it, she is one of the major characters, and we haven't really got a lot of information on her as a character, so it makes sense that we got a Ritsuko-focused episode.
Yeah, Misato even mentions that she doesn't really talk for herself, and that's kind of how it is in the series. We keep getting her thoughts on current events, but never her as a whole.
Yeah.
And this episode kind of just is her backstory. To a degree. Not really her backstory, but her relationship with her mother and the Magi system, which we also learn more about.
Yeah, we learned a little bit more about the Magi system. Because the one thing we kind of knew up until now was that it was 3 supercomputers who make every decision for the city. This episode we learned that there's a lot of internal conflict between them, which makes sense. If you have 3 supercomputers, you don't want them to just agree on everything. You want them to debate amongst themselves and come up with different perspectives, and then through that kind of come to a conclusion, which makes a lot of sense. But we learned that it was based off of Ritsuko's mom's 3 different personalities, because she was a woman, a mother, and a scientist all at once.
Yeah, so it's really kind of good to break them up into scientist, so the one computer that's very logical and wants to pretty much come to the best conclusion of outcome.
Yeah.
The mother one is more like an emotional leaning one, where it takes more of feelings into account. So it wants to what's the best for everyone, not so much the best route for success. So I guess you could say the mother one would try to save lives, while the scientist won't be willing to give up lives. And then the woman one, I'm not sure what that one handles, except for apparently it's resilient.
It's the most emotionally resilient and stubborn of them, which kind of makes it sound like if the other 2 agree and have a perfectly reasonable plan, but Caspar just didn't come up with it, too fucking bad. That's not the plan they're going with, because Caspar did not come up with it.
Yeah, which I do like the aspect of it being the 3 supercomputers that were personally made to have different personalities. So they actually had to debate and come to a conclusion, which also kind of plays into the fact that all 3 of them need to unanimously decide to self-destruct.
Yeah, which is very important, because this angel, who goes by the name of Ariel, or Aureliel, or however you want to pronounce that name.
I always thought it was Ariel.
Ariel, that works too. Needs to hack all 3 brains, because it managed to very quickly hack
Melchior?
Melchior. Yeah. But doesn't manage to hack Caspar until the very last second, when they managed to upload their counter hack. This was a lot of hacking, which was fun for me. I got to say stuff like the hacks coming from inside the angel, fun things like that. We legitimately had a line of, we've traced the hack to inside Nerve HQ, and it's coming from that room where the angel is, which is just not the kind of line you expect to come up in this show.
Oh, no. And that, it's very much one of those fun aspects where it's more the characters based, as you called, they don't use an Ava to defeat this. This is actually the characters together beating it, proving that different angels have different ways of working against them. And this one, they actively decide this one evolves really quickly to deal with all problems, so we have to make it evolve so fast that it has to tie its survivability to the Magi system. Thus, the self-destruction would kill it.
Yeah. And this one I thought was one of the more interesting angels, for the pure fact that, every other angel seems to be threatening in just its sheer power and the amount of destructive force that it has available to it. Like, it has the capacity to blow up Nerve HQ by falling into Nerve HQ. Or it has an AT field that's so powerful that it's visible to the human eye. Shit like that.
Yeah.
This is the first Angel that didn't seem to be physically imposing. It seemed to be its capabilities and, frankly, its intelligence seemed to be what made it the most fucking terrifying. Or was the most terrifying aspect of this Angel.
Now, it's funny you should mention this. And this is not something we've really talked about because it's not really important to the series, but it's a fun thing to mention. So all these angels are actual angels from the Bible scripture and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And these angels all have titles in that book. And it just so happens this one happens to be the Angel of Terror.
Fucking of course this is the Angel of Terror.
So the fact that you mentioned the word terror, it's like I have to let you know this one. This angel in the story is the Angel of Terror.
I'm gonna be honest, terror wasn't even something I was planning on leaning towards. I was planning on referencing the fact that this seems to be the most intelligent of the angels, because not that the other angels aren't intelligent, but all the other angels seem to rely more so on kind of animalistic instinct for what they're doing. This is the one that seems to be thinking the most, which in a way does make it the most terrifying, but yeah, not where I was going with it, but I kind of ended up there, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this episode, if I am not forgetting an earlier scene, which has been known to happen on occasion, hint last week, is the episode, the episode opens up with Asuka, Rei, and Shinji being tasked with entering a super clean room, which requires even more levels of sanitation than just taking a shower and putting on clean underwear. Because they can't have any contaminants, because they're doing a special test to see how well the Avas respond to their thoughts and all the synchronization when they're not wearing the plug suit to interpret that information.
Well, there was also another test going on here, which was a testing of the remote system.
Right, yes, because they're not directly piloting the Avas, they're in the substitute Avas and piloting them remotely. So, multiple tests going on. They also had put the Magi, it looked like, into sleep mode, specifically to handle the test, so the Magi's also weren't operating at full capacity. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on all at once. Perfect storm for an angel to attack during this time.
Pretty much.
Do that. We then get the scene of the kind of inner conflict with the angels, and Ritsuko explains that she's not the one who actually invented the angels. She just assembled them based on the work of someone who came before her. And when Misato asks who it is while drinking some very cold coffee, Ritsuko explains that it was her mother who actually created the angels. Not the angels. Oh, that's a whole other role I'm giving to Ritsuko.
I didn't expect you to fall solve it this fast.
Ritsuko's mom did not create the angels, she created the Magi system.
Well, an important thing to mention here is she created the framework for the Magi
yeah,
system.
She didn't.
Ritsuko was ultimately the one who got them functioning.
Yeah. She put in the groundwork for the Magi system. She didn't actually make the Magi system herself. Still a lot of work and very impressive.
Yeah, I think the best thing to say is that the AI system as it exists was created by her mother, but it's more of the fully functioning Magi system we see today is the result of Ritsuko.
Yeah, and the way they interact with each other, all the technical aspects, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot going on in this episode, but
they also drop a lot of things that are just one-off someone saying something that implies a lot of things.
Would you like to call my attention to some of those? I suppose
we'll get there when I have some fun facts if you haven't mentioned them.
That's fair. So yeah, I'm trying to remember because there was a lot fucking going on. So the protein wall starts to break down, whatever the protein wall is, but it's presumably one of the protections around Nerve HQ. And they keep referring to it as corrosion, without going into the specifics of what it is. Ritsuko makes it very clear that it's too fucking bad that that's happening because the test has to happen, because Gendo will raise some shit or raise a stink, I believe is the phrase that's used, if they stop the test midway through. Multiple people make references to Gendo raising a stink if things go wrong during this day. Which leads me to believe that there has been days when Gendo's just run around throwing people's coffees against the wall, being like, I can't believe this fucking happened, you piece of shit, so...
If this keeps up, you're gonna find a retirement gun in your mailbox.
I'm gonna be honest, I forgot about the retirement gun for a second. Which is weird, because we got to see a prime example of the Gendo method happening again, which is when the angel starts to infiltrate the simulation, or not the simulation, but the
artificial bodies.
Artificial bodies, thank you. And they have to eject the entry plugs to get the 3 children out of there. We see them specifically have another one of those glass shield things. It's not you lift the glass and pull the thing. It's you have to smash the glass with your bare hand and then pull the handle. To be absolutely sure, once again, to abort a mission, you have to be willing to break glass with your bare hand.
Yep, so the Ava pilots all get shot up into the lake, which is in the geofront where you see outside the Nerve HQ pyramid.
Yeah.
And then Gendo launches the 3 units, because his whole reasoning is, we have to defeat the Angel without the Ava units, because if that Angel gets to the Ava units and corrupts them, we just lose.
Yeah, because even if we manage to defeat this Angel, if the Avas are corrupted and we have to start over from scratch, we're fucked. We need these Angels to be able to fight we need these Avas to be able to fight the coming Angels that come after this.
Yeah.
Can't risk losing all 3 Avas to this one Angel.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. He also has a specific line about how they have to prioritize Unit 1, which felt weird to me because supposedly Unit 2 is the most advanced one, and Unit 0 is the one that was currently being corrupted by Unit 0's fake one, was the one that was currently being corrupted. So I don't know why he specifically said they need to prioritize Unit 1. But
yeah, it was prioritize Unit 1. If we have to abandon 0 and 2, we can recover from that. Or something along those lines.
Yeah, which is peculiar to me. You'd think he would prioritize sacrificing Unit 1 as far as I could tell, but I suppose if he sacrifices Unit 1, then Shinji no longer has to fight Angels. So of course he's going to want to save the one that allows Shinji to continue fighting Angels. So you know what? No, I've come around. I understand why he wanted to prioritize saving Unit 1.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It was going to be one of my questions. It's no longer one of my questions. I have headcanon to explain it now.
I prepared a whole workaround of like, oh, maybe, who knows? But you seem to have come to a conclusion. I don't have to do any of that now.
Yeah, perfect. We're in solid footing now.
Much like 2 of the Magi's, we've come to an agreement.
We don't care what the 3rd Magi has to say. I don't know who the 3rd Magi is in this analogy, but we've come to an agreement. We're good.
It's the listener.
It's the listener. We don't care what you think about this matter. We have come to an agreement.
I'm not saying I agree with your outcome. I'm just saying I agree with our standard that we set. Well, we don't need to ask about it anymore.
Yeah, sure. That's fine by me. I'm willing to accept that. So yeah, this is I think the first moment they realize it's an Angel is when they try and break the corruption with laser fire, and it's immediately reflected by an AT field.
You see little AT fields popping up.
Little tiny AT fields just all over the thing. And then we also get confirmation because they do one of the tests and it returns code blue, and that means Angel. So yes, it is in fact a very tiny Angel in the form of many nanomachines working together in concert.
Yeah, and this Angel is a bit weird too in that front where if you go, like, for example, the wiki pages for these things, most Angels have the photo of the Angel. This one, there's not really a photo of the Angel, so they just show the simulation body.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely one of the ones that each of the Angels is unique and distinct from the other ones. This one feels the most distinct from all the other ones right now because the other ones had similar threads going along in that they were much larger than anyone else. They had a physical form that we could see. This one seems to be the most distinct from any of the others because of how all these differences we've kind of discussed.
Yeah. And it is also the one that's gotten the furthest so far. It actually made its way into the command center in Central Dogma.
It was literally 1 second away from destroying Nerve HQ by using the self-destruct feature.
Well, let's be fair. It was actually 2 seconds away because Ritsuko stated she had a second to spare.
It's true. She probably actually waited a second before hitting enter just to really show Gendo that she knew what she was doing. To be fair, Gendo didn't look the least bit concerned during any of this, so he clearly had absolute faith that because Ritsuko said she would handle this, that it was going to be handled.
Yeah.
Gendo clearly has the understanding that if someone says they're going to do something, it's going to get done. There's no need to worry about it after that moment.
No, which I also going to call back to when they're first assessing what they need to do in it. And Misato's immediate thing is, there's only one way to deal with something like this. We have to blow ourselves up with it.
Yeah.
Ritsuko's like, no.
To be fair, that's once again showing very much Misato's personality, as we discussed in the last episode, in that I don't think Misato cared the least about, like, saving Nerve HQ or protecting anything. It was just, this is the way that guarantees the death of this Angel.
Well, at the same time, I think Misato doesn't fully understand how integrated the Magi system is into Nerve HQ. Ritsuko's like, yeah, destroying the Magi system is pretty much just destroying Nerve HQ.
But Misato is just like, I don't care. That also destroys the Angel, and that's my only goal in this operation. I need the Angel to be not alive anymore.
I mean, hypothetically, they probably could have hit it with an EMP as well. Maybe something would have happened, but I would assume that the Magi system also has some sort of EMP protection.
Yeah, it probably has something baked into it to protect it.
Another thing that kind of briefly happens that's worth drawing attention to is we have a brief moment of Kaji.
Oh, right, yes. He was doing something in one of the side paths, and then he sees the the tunnels closing off around him, realizes that an angel is attacking. He'll have to do this another day, and jumps into a different tunnel and starts walking away from whatever mysterious task he was working on.
Yeah.
Classic Kaji shit.
Yep. Mysterious and seductive.
Yep. I was feeling a little bit aroused while I saw him working on
Feels like he meets all the requirements of a spy for some reason.
Kind of feels like he's got some sort of James Bond vibe going on for some reason.
But why would he be spying on Nerf?
I don't know. It's probably unrelated. He's definitely not a spy. There's no way he's a spy.
I'm saying he seems to meet the requirements for one.
Yeah. He has all of the traits of a spy, except for the fact that he's definitely not a spy.
Exactly.
And the one thing you can say is that if someone is absolutely, you're sure they're not a spy, that means they're definitely not a spy. There's never been a spy who convinced someone they're not a spy.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think.
Probably.
I wasn't really listening to all of it.
I lost myself halfway through. I don't fully know what I said, to be honest with you.
I need you to repeat it again in exact.
Nope, it's just not going to happen. But yeah, so we also find out that, so we already kind of discussed the specifics of the Magi system and how it was made by the mother and how she embedded it with her 3 different personalities. We also find out that she left just crazy man scrawls on pieces of note paper all throughout the inside of Caspar, at the very least, full of like backdoor secrets to hack the Magi.
I believe it's to explain that all of them have these notes, which really, to have backdoors to the super important computer system, I know it's right there in the command room, but still probably not best to have all of that just sprawled out.
Yeah, it didn't look like they needed any special permissions to raise up the Magi system to see all that. Kind of feels like anyone who had access to the control room could have easily gotten access to those note papers and figured out how to hack the Magi system.
Yeah, and the Magi system is not on the same elevation as the main command center either. It's lower, which means it could be missed if someone were to sneak in there like a spy and maybe open them up.
Kaji? No,
why are you saying Kaji?
I don't know. He's not a spy. I don't know why I assumed he'd be somehow related to that. Yeah, so, as kind of stated, Ritsuko comes up with a plan that will give them exactly 1 second of spare time to finish. Finishes it with that 1 second of spare time, and then the day is saved and the angel just kind of stops. It seems to die, but it's not like explicitly said that it's dead. It just stops doing what it's doing.
It was pretty much, she implemented a self-destruct system that it needed to pretty much merge itself with the AI, thus making it a part of the system and not an enemy.
So now there's 4 pieces to the Magi system. The 3 pieces of Ritsuko's mom's personality, also an angel, also having a part of all of those debates.
Which I guess works because she's dead.
Yeah. Sure, let's go with that, yeah.
The perspective from being a mother, a scientist, a woman, and dead.
Yeah. Those are the 4 perspectives of her.
That 4th Magi just never gives a response.
The 4th Magi's response is always, what if we just let the humans die? Is that an option?
Synopsis is like, oh no. And it's like, can the angels go too?
I'm willing to accept it if this plan also requires all angels to die in the process.
The 4th Magi rejects.
Weird. So yeah, and then finally we cut to the 3 children just being in their entry plugs on the shore of that lake. Not able to go anywhere because they're all perfectly naked and completely sterile on the inside of their entry plug, so they're just waiting for someone from Nerve to come pick them up.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Asuka even says, like, she's not going to go anywhere while she's naked.
Yeah, which, I fully understand why she was like that. I am very surprised Ray had not already left and started walking back to Nerve HQ.
Well, she wasn't ordered to come back to HQ.
True. Gendo could just say, fucking Ray, bring Asuka and Shinji back to Nerve HQ, and she would drag them kicking and screaming back to Nerve HQ.
Drag the entry plug back in.
Yeah. Wouldn't even take them out too much work. Just drag the entire entry plug. Well then, I think that's the episode at the very least.
Now, you mentioned questions.
Yeah, so one of them was going to be, why was Unit 1 a priority? We now know that.
I guess we do.
We both have an understanding that the reason Unit 1's a priority is because it will cause Shinji to suffer more down the road if he continues fighting angels.
If that's what you want to go with.
That is what I want to go with.
There we go.
To confirm, is there another reason why Unit 1 would be a priority?
Why would there be another reason? I thought we already came to the conclusion.
True, we have a super perfect explanation. We don't need another explanation.
Yeah, don't think about it anymore.
I'll just stop thinking about it for now.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck. Did Ritsuko's mom die in the second impact? Do we know anything about that? Or was she still around after that?
No, she was around after the impact.
Okay, so she had... Is she still around, or has
No,
she passed
she's
away? Okay.
She's a mother. What do you expect?
That's true. That's why I assume she died in the second impact, because she was a mother.
No, after the second impact, but yes.
Fair enough.
Also, to clarify as well, Ritsuko even clarifies that her mother stopped aging.
Oh, that's true. Her mother... Well, she said her mother's perfectly fine, and I continue to age every day, but I suppose that could be a reference to her mother still being fine in the form of the Magi system is kind of her mother.
Yeah, some of the translations are weird, but effectively she gives her wording suggests that her mother is no longer getting older.
Fair. That is true. That phrasing was a little bit awkward. Now that I think about it, it makes sense that she's dead. Kaji. He's super trustworthy, right?
Depends on who you are.
Anyone other than Gendo?
I mean, I think Misato can trust Kaji.
I don't know that let me rephrase. I don't know that Misato should trust Kaji. I know that she can trust Kaji.
That's a fair way to put it. I'm not saying you can't trust Kaji, but I'm saying, depending on who you are, you might not want to trust Kaji.
Yeah, that's fair. No, it's more of the same from the past. Like, why are the Angels so determined to destroy Nerve HQ? Hasn't shown up any details related to that in the show yet, so I'm gonna assume we still can't answer that one. No, that's about it. It's Ritsuko's mom, because this one was largely Ritsuko based, and then the few weird details we got with Shinji, well, not Shinji, but Unit 1 and Kaji are other things I was curious about. That and Ritsuko's clearly got a relationship with Gendo. Not like a relationship, but like based on the Jet Alone episode, and the fact that she clearly hacked into Jet Alone to prevent it from doing anything while working with Gendo, and the fact that Gendo immediately took her at her word when she said that she was going to resolve this through hacking. Clearly there's something going on, and they're aware of more details than they're sharing with us.
Like I was saying, Gendo has two people he very much relies on, and that's Fuyutsuki for all the administrative stuff, and Ritsuko for all of the scientific stuff.
Makes sense. Alright, well then, that's it. Those are my questions.
That's fair. There are a few interesting things to mention in this episode, for my fun fact corner, as you will. In this one, it does go by quickly, but Ritsuko does mention to Misato during the testing that this is a system for an autopilot system for the Evas.
Which would be helpful.
Interesting concept.
They've got those poor little cockpits that can only fit a child, but now maybe they don't need to risk children anymore.
If you're listening carefully when they're talking about what the Angel is doing, and it's going around the Sigma unit and looking for something, Gendo and Fuyutsuki do briefly discuss that it's fairly close to Atom.
So that might be what it was looking for in particular.
Again, this first time that the Angel, any Angel has managed to get directly inside the central dogma.
Yep.
As you already mentioned before, Gendo prioritizes Unit 1 over the other two. But we already figured that one out.
Yeah, we know why that is.
We got a little bit more on the Magi system being the three personalities of Naoko Akagi, which is her mother.
Makes sense.
Now, this one is kind of an Easter egg that can be missed, because you have to kind of pause and zoom in and read Japanese. But
I wasn't doing any of those things, I'll be honest with you.
But one of the messages on the post-it note says, "Ikari, you're an idiot." We don't know who. Could be any Ikari. But it is signed from Naoko.
It could be the Ikari that Naoko has a specific relationship with, or she just could have spent enough time with Gendo to realize that Shinji's also kind of an idiot.
Could be anyone at this point. So this is another episode that actually has minimal Evangelion use in it. We only get the one shot of Unit 1 being shot off, and then there's no Evas in this one, which is kind of unique compared to the rest of it. Again, because Ritsuko ultimately tricks the Angel into feeding itself. We found out that the self-destruct order for Nerve HQ is Order 582. And, yeah, the last one's kind of just, Kaji being suspicious.
Kaji is just a little bit of a saucy bitch.
He seems to be having secret meetings here and there and has details that other people aren't aware of and then completes his orders, such as abandoning a bunch of kids in a robot on a battleship or being near a volcano when something secret was going on.
Of course, he just has things he's not supposed to do officially, but is definitely unofficially supposed to do.
Exactly.
Pretty
Wink.
standard not a spy stuff, because he's definitely not a spy.
Yeah, not a spy.
Yeah.
Wink.
Wink. Wink.
Wink.
Nothing quite like verbally winking to denote something's completely factually accurate.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Neither do I.
So, overall, where would you say this episode stacks up?
I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Once again, it's a lot of character development, but also just the way that this angel was different from all the other ones, and so the angel fight, in air quotes, played out completely different from any other angel fight. Kind of made it feel a lot more dynamic to me than a lot of other episodes, and the stakes were quite fucking high because, as stated, they were that fucking close to losing all of Nerve HQ through a self-destruct.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing I found about this episode. This is probably one of my more favorite episodes, and it's because even though in every other episode the risk of failure is presumably the rest of humanity being wiped out, but this is probably the most tense episode that we've had.
Yeah.
And fitting with the fact, as I mentioned before, it's not really important to the story because all these angels have official titles outside of Neon Genesis, and this one just so happens to be the Angel of Terror.
Of course. It seems to fit very fucking well with how I felt about this entire episode.
Yeah, and that level of tenseness, even though you're like, I know there's 13 more episodes of this series, I know something's probably going to happen, but it's still that tenseness of just how everything plays out and cutting it down to the last second. They do it so well that it's such a memorable episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. This is a very solid episode.
Yeah, with that, that means that we are now halfway through the anime series.
Woo! Yeah, this has been quite the experience so far. There are things I have enjoyed about this. There are things that have stressed me out more than anything else in my life. It's an experience. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. Yeah, I was gonna ask, now that we're halfway through, do you have any grand thoughts so far? Not just about the episode, but about the series up to this point. Now that we've reached the halfway mark for the anime, anyways.
So before we got into this was one of those anime. Before we even started this fucking podcast discussion, by which I mean us discussing even making a podcast in the first place. This is one of those one of those animes that I mostly just memed about the fact that I was just never gonna watch it purely because you wanted me to watch it. And I'm an asshole. I am glad we're doing this because I have thoroughly enjoyed this series so far. It's one of the things where this is also the first series I've watched in a long time where I'm actually waiting fucking weeks between episodes because we're trying to record on a basis of the podcast coming out. So.
Oh yeah, and I like the idea of you having it fresh in your mind when we record these.
Yeah. So it's fucking we watch them in batches. So I watch 12 and 13 today, but it's probably going to be 2 weeks before I watch another episode, and it's just going to be in the back of my mind of what's going on with the series. It's really enjoyable to go back and actually force myself to watch a series like that again.
Oh, glad to hear. And I guess I should probably ask this now. This series is synonymous with the concept of the waifu war. Do you have a side yet?
Alright, so I haven't gone in full opposition to any sides. What I will say is I'm most heavily leaning towards Rei right now. And while I recognize it's not a valid argument in the waifu wars, after episode 12, Misato is also someone I'm willing to accept as a possible winner of the waifu wars.
You see, everyone's it's between Rei and Asuka. Really, it's about Misato and Ritsuko.
Yeah.
Let's be serious. The cultured individuals know what it's about.
Of course. It's obviously about the true waifus, Misato and Ritsuko, and I'm leaning towards Misato between those two. And if you force me to fight between Asuka and Rei, I'm leaning towards Rei.
Fair enough. Well, I think that wraps up this episode with that. So, if you'd like to reach us with questions, comments, anything along those lines, you can find us at whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com. We also have the YouTube channel where we put up the episodes, and we have the Instagram page where we put up little facts about the series as we go through, information, terminology, and details about episodes coming up. Sometimes there's a poll. Maybe there'll be a waifu war poll when this episode comes up. Who knows? Because we're halfway through the series.
Yeah. Time to start getting See, the waifu war isn't fair for anyone listening to this because they probably watched the entire series, so they have more reasons to. Nope, this is not something I need to start fighting right yet. I'll wait until we do the poll, and then I'll start fighting with people in the comments.
You know what, actually? If this is actually your first time going through the series and you're listening to this podcast with it, email into us. I'm actually curious to see if there's new people going through the series now.
If people are going through it specifically at the same pace as us, please, for the love of God, let us know, because that actually is super fucking cool.
Like a kind of like a book club.
Yeah. Once a week you watch an episode, listen to our podcast about that episode. That's super fucking cool if you're doing that.
And now for our final segment. Peter, what is next time on Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Alright, next time on Neon Genesis Evangelion, CLA is going to step in and try and take more direct control over Nerve. They've had it up to here with how Gendo's been behaving, so they need to take more direct control. At the same time, Shinji and Asuka are going to take a seat on the Throne of Souls, and it's going to cause a body-swapping type Freaky Friday thing. And Shinji's going to be in Asuka's body, Asuka's going to be in Shinji's body, and they're going to have to fight an angel while piloting the opposite Avas that they normally do because it responds to their body, not their soul.
Well, you have it there, so tune in next time where there'll be plenty of fan service, and it sounds a little weird saying it after that one.